Welcome to Gathered in the Higham House, a podcast where faith meets family and real life happens. This is our space to share stories, celebrate traditions, and talk about the ups and downs of family life. From holiday memories and parenting wins to lessons learned through laughter, tears, and faith, we're inviting you to pull up a chair and join us at the table. This is Gathered in the Higham House. So we missed a week.
Yep, we did.
We missed our first week.
It happens.
We had every intention on being here. We had every intention to record and to post.
And we did. And we missed it.
And we missed it.
It's been a little bit crazy.
But I'm okay with us doing it and missing this early.
Yeah.
Because we're still kind of building and growing this. And it's better to make the mistake now than to make the mistake later when more people are listening. But if you're listening now and you're like, what are they talking about? We missed posting this episode. Actually, we missed recording this episode.
Yes, we did.
So, welcome to Gathered in the Higham House. My name is Jay, and here at the table is
Amy.
And this is episode 6. And episode 6 was supposed to be last Thursday, but we are 1 week behind. But with good reason.
Mm-hmm.
And what's that reason?
We had our granddaughter for a week, which was super fun and filled with lots of laughter and joy. But having a toddler in the house was, we're not 20. So
nope.
It was exhausting, but so fun. And we just feel so blessed that we got the chance to be with her. And honestly, I just wanted to be with her the whole time. Like, I just wanted to be present. And I wanted to be playing with her, and I wanted to be laughing with her and reading her stories and all the things. And I think we actually took her to get ice cream last Tuesday, which she just loves.
Yeah.
So that was like her treat. But needless to say, we did not have the time or the energy to do this.
Sometimes you have to say no in order to say
yes.
yes.
Yeah, and that was totally worth it.
Was a week
totally
of
worth
no.
it. Yeah.
And we had a plan. I mean, we thought we were going to get it all done.
We did.
But I mean, here's the thing. Usually when we see our grandkids, we see them on the weekend.
Yeah.
When we're not working.
Yeah.
And so we can focus on them.
Right.
So it was really challenging to try to focus on her, but also navigate work.
Yeah.
And then all the other things.
I'm just super thankful we have flexible jobs, so we can do that.
We can. We do.
However, it definitely was a little bit more,
challenging
to balance both of them. But we did it, and it was fun, and it was worth it. But the podcast is what had to wait.
Yeah. Yep. And on top of not just her being here, I mean, we had a very busy ministry.
The last couple of weeks have been
season
nonstop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we had to speak somewhere, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. I did a kind of speaking thing to a small group of women. Like, those things took time and energy.
Yeah, it was fun though.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you all out there are listening, if you help us get to like a couple hundred listeners, like, we'll make this a number one priority.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet.
No.
So we have the room.
It's okay.
This is episode 6, and this is Gathered in the Higham House. And we do have I think this is going to be an interesting conversation, because in this episode, we're actually calling this episode Becoming a Prodigal Parent. And it's part of what we shared 2 weekends ago. Our church hosted a women's retreat, and we were asked to lead a workshop, breakout
session, probably. Yeah.
On the topic of raising our adult kids and praying for our prodigals.
Mm-hmm.
And so we sat down to craft that. We did some brainstorming. We did a little bit of research. We created an outline. And we put together a talk, which went really, really well.
Yeah, it was really fun.
But right afterwards, we were like, this is the next episode.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Because we put a lot of work into this.
Yeah.
So here's what we're doing today. We're gonna bring some of this content, and our hope is to do this a little bit more conversationally. So if you're used to listening to the first episodes, we did a lot of like question back and forth. This, I'm hoping, is going to be a little bit more of us just sharing through the content in a more conversational way.
Yeah.
So here's what we're going to say with this. We're calling it Becoming the Prodigal Parent, and we'll unpack that in just a second. But we do want to talk about what it looks like to engage our adult kids, how to pray for them, and learning how to be what we're going to call the prodigal parent here in just a little bit. Now, we do want to have a little disclaimer, because for as much as we love this topic, this is a space where we're living right now.
Yes, very much so. And learning.
Mm-hmm. And so not only are we going to speak from some experience, but we're also going to speak from the place of, hey, we're still new at this.
Yeah.
I mean, 4 of the 5 are technically adults.
Yes.
By age.
Yes, they are.
4 of them are living on their own. They're doing their thing. And so not just by age, but boy, I would say they're adulting well.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because sometimes we just think, 18, they're an adult now. But they aren't.
But ours are. Yeah.
We were short of kicking them out with the big boot. They kind of up and went.
So, yeah.
But they're doing the adult thing. So here's where we are. We're still learning what it looks like to do some of the very things that we're going to talk about. We are not experts in this. We're learning as we go.
Yeah. We're
making mistakes. We're saying the wrong things sometimes, but we're self-correcting and we're trying to do better at that. So we're learning. In this, we're going to show the things that God is kind of teaching us in the good things that we do and in the mistakes that we've made. And what we realize is that, some of our kids have made really good decisions. Some of our kids have made not so good decisions.
Yeah.
That's just part of the
just like we did.
Yeah, just it's part of the growing up experience.
Yeah.
And we know that there's going to be more decisions to come, many of which probably won't be what we think is best for them. Or even as we step into this world of raising up our grandkids, like letting them go to be our kids' and not always, trying to say, this is how you should do it. We're going to unpack all of that.
Right.
All that's to say is we're
in it.
We're in it.
Yeah, we're in it.
So if you're in that space, I hope this podcast is encouraging for you. But hey, we're right there with you. So let's do this together.
To point out that some of our kids have walked closely with the Lord their whole lives, and then some of them have not. So like we just kind of have the gamut of it, a variety of where our kids have been and are.
Yeah, I think it's a fair statement.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's start a little bit here with who we are again.
Yeah.
Now, we're not going to unpack who we are because we've done that in other episodes, but I think we need just to stress we both grew up in church.
Yeah.
Both of our families were very family-oriented homes. And we have spent our entire married life and our family life serving in full-time ministry in some
capacity.
Capacity. Good word. So growing up in the church, family-oriented homes, and we have raised our kids in the church. When that happens, there's a lot that comes with that. And I think if we're not careful, some of a lot that comes at us can come with some dangerous misconceptions. And so I think let's start off with just kind of acknowledging some of those things. Because anytime you're surrounded by a small community, I think we all sense or feel things like doubt, fear, guilt, anxiety, and then pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think as parents, we're becoming really aware of the external pressures that we have put on ourselves unnecessarily at times to be great parents. And those pressures can be dangerous. And like what I mean by that is we make the assumption that like in parenting, well, if 1 + 2 = 3. I mean, if I do it this way, because so-and-so said so, then I'm going to get these results. Yeah. And I think that's dangerous to assume that the right results will come according to what we think is right. And then the other one is the comparison game. Like when we watch other parents and see how their adult kids turned out, and we think, oh, well, I'll do it that way. And it might be helpful to learn from other parents who have gone through it, but I think it's important to keep in mind that none of us have mastered this parenting at any stage. We have not mastered it. We're all just a work in progress and learning. And so comparing our kids to other kids and our family to other families is dangerous. And the other thing, the last one that we wanted to talk about is just other people's expectations. And especially if you're in ministry, and I'm sure this is probably, you can probably say this across the board maybe in professions, but I feel like in ministry, especially because like we're supposed to know what we're doing. We're supposed to have it right. And we have these like expectations of what others might be thinking, saying, or wanting from us or our kids. I think it's really important to not let other people's expectations become our expectation. And as parents, we need to give our adult kids the space to raise their kids and make important decisions. It's so easy to want to be like, but do it this way. Mm-hmm. And yet their kids are not our kids, and that's not who God has entrusted them to. And so I feel like that, those expectations, man. I remember like when we were just starting out, all the expectations about like even that my parents passed on to us, like that the kids should sit at the table the entire time and they should eat every single thing on their plate, all those things. And they should potty train this way. And, my mom raised children. She had a daycare in her home, so she knew children. But those children were not our children, and that's not who God had given to raise them. Yeah. So I think it's really important that while there's plenty of resources, books, podcasts, conferences, workshops, that there are no secret formulas. And I really believe that because I think that God is writing his story in each of our kids' lives individually. And I think it's really important to keep that in mind. It's not by accident that the kids he gave to us because he uniquely crafted them for us. And they're his kids, his creation, and it's his story.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest thing, even of all the stuff that we're going to share, that's probably the number one space to be in for me. Yeah. Is like the constant reminder of whose kids these are. Mm-hmm. I mean, yes, we're the ones who birth and nurture and care for, but ultimately they're God's kids. Mm-hmm. And we have been tasked to steward their time. Yeah. And to be their disciplers, to be their trainers. But here's the thing, like we do that, but it doesn't really guarantee the final outcome. Right. Like we do our best to get them to what we're hoping and trying to do, but at the end of the game, it's what's left on the field.
Yeah, we have to trust him.
Yeah. We have this conversation about like watching football games and like the coaches take the heat for when the team doesn't win, and who's replaced after a couple of losses. It's like the coach. Yeah. But like the coach can only do so much. It has to be the players on the field. And yes, our kids would say, "No, Dad, you have to call the right play." Yeah. Yes, we get all of that. Yeah. But we can do all of the right things with our kids. And we have to let them walk on the field, play the game, and trust that God is going to do something in the midst of all of that stuff. Yeah, yeah. So those are some good things to kind of just lay out there to start things off. But I want us to take some time because I do think that while there are great resources, books, podcasts, conferences, I mean, we're creating a podcast.
Right, and you take little bits from here and there, and you lay it before the Lord and seek His wisdom. With the resources, I think is important to say too. Like, no, don't not use resources. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that There's no one secret formula to make your kids be perfect little angels.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
Right. But I think of all the resources that are out there, the one place we can turn to for help
sure. Yes.
is going to be the Word of God. So part of what we did with this presentation was we looked at the story in Luke 15, verses 11 through 32 of the prodigal son. Mm-hmm. And we kind of used that as the springboard to kind of introduce this idea of becoming a prodigal parent. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to read this.
Sure.
Because I think it's good that we have this story out there.
Yeah.
Are you okay reading?
I'm sure. Yeah.
So bear with us. This is Luke 15, 11 through 32. It's a lengthy piece. If you have your Bible handy and you want to open it up and follow along, I would go ahead and do that. It'll help it go a little faster. Mm-hmm. But Amy's going to read, and then we're going to dive into some of this before we go much further.
Yeah. And he said, there was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me. And he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country, and there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perished here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion, and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. And bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this was my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to celebrate. Now his older son was in the field, and as he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called one of his servants and asked what these things meant. And he said to him, Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fattened calf, because he has received him back safe and sound. But he was angry and refused to go in. His father came out and entreated him. But he answered his father, Look, these many years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat, that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fattened calf for him. And he said to him, Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad, for this your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found.
All right. So I love this story. So this is one of the parables that Jesus presents. And, a parable is a story that has, a meaning, a purpose behind it. And I've heard this one preached countless times. Mm-hmm. I've heard professors in school talk about the significance of the first son and the second son. But here's the thing. My favorite, or what I think is one of the best ways of looking at this story that Jesus shares, is through Timothy Keller's book, The Prodigal God. Now, the book itself is not a parenting book. Mm-mm. It's simply a book to help us reconnect to our faith. But Timothy does a tremendous job in talking about the characters in this story and kind of breaking them out. And so he deals with the son who leaves the father, takes the money and goes. He talks about the son who stays and his response afterwards. But it's really the father that draws my attention, because Keller paints this picture of a father who loves his boys in a radically reckless, extravagant way. And he unpacks that. And obviously, this is God. I mean, this is Jesus giving us a picture of what God looks like, how he loves, how he moves, and all those good things. So we want to use this story of this picture of God in this parable to help us paint the picture of what it looks like to be a prodigal parent. And so we're going to focus on three things kind of briefly, but I think these are helpful for us as we talk about what it looks like for us to raise our kids. And so the first one is going to be letting go without giving up. It's going to be that's more practical, I think, would you say?
Yeah.
Because we're going to kind of deal with some practical stuff in that. Mm-hmm. But then this idea of becoming the prodigal parent, we'll dig back into the scriptures. We'll look a little closer. We'll talk about that, what that means for us. And then I want us to wrap up on this idea of trusting God, trusting our good and faithful Father as our third thing. Mm-hmm. So let's start off with this idea of letting go without giving up.
Yeah. I think letting go is the transition from hands-on parenting to heart-deep influence. What I mean by that is like from birth through high school and graduation, we're hands-on. We direct their schedules. We decide what they eat. We have more control, I think, a little bit, or we think we do.
I always think of the verse that Jesus tells Peter at the end of Jesus' time with the disciples, like, when you were little, they dressed you.
Yeah, right.
then you did this, and there'll be another time, and someone will tell you, like, for kids, we did that.
Right.
We told them what to wear, what to do, where to go.
Right. But as they grow, their need for independence grows, and we gradually become more and more hands off. And this has to happen. Yeah. We have to begin letting go as soon as and early as possible, because this helps them become independent and helps us begin letting go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that I think has become more of a topic of discussion
lately. Because we just went through the whole era of helicopter parenting and we're seeing that's not great.
Didn't work.
Yeah.
Caused issues.
Right.
Didn't help anybody grow up.
Right.
So, and even if I wasn't going to mention it on this episode, but the Anxious Generation book talks a ton about this and how important it is that we give our kids the opportunities for them to kind of do things that help grow that sense of independence. In fact, more and more studies are showing that the earlier that we start giving kids those type of experiences, we begin to build their confidence and their opportunity to make good decisions. Right. I'm not going to say right decisions, right, but by allowing our kids the freedom to do stuff and giving them the opportunity to kind of make decisions in the moment helps build the confidence so that as they're making decisions, they have something to stand on. So what does it mean for us to let go? I think some of that is letting go is letting them make their decisions. And as your kids are growing up, that becomes a real thing because they start talking about where they want to go to college, what they want to do, their career path, where they want to live. Gosh, Logan talked for years about wanting to live in Florida. And we were like, oh, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well,
he lives in Florida.
He lives in Florida. Yeah. But letting go is allowing them to begin to make their own decisions. Letting go is supporting their goals and ambitions, what they want. And sometimes those goals and ambitions aren't our goals and ambitions. And we have to kind of come to the place to say, all right, the picture I had of my kids isn't the right picture.
Yeah.
What I wanted them to achieve, that's not part of what they're achieving. Letting go is listening to their wants. I think that's a big practical thing. Slowing down, sitting down, and actually listening as they talk from their heart about what it is that they want to do. Letting go is giving them the space to live. And so for me, that is this idea that they are making their decisions, and now they're living in the consequences of their decisions, good or bad. Like, it's giving them the space to kind of do their thing. Somehow, I think it was the other morning, I was making breakfast, and for some reason, remember Boy Meets World? And they had one scene where Corey marries while still in college, and the first like couple months of their marriage, it's absolute disaster. And he comes to his father looking for help, and he has this big monologue of like all of these things, and he just, you know, kind of rails with the expectation that his dad's going to come in and rescue him. And the dad's like, you chose this. We sat down and we talked about it, and you said you were ready to handle it. And I think what a great parenting moment to be like, hey, we had these conversations, but this is your space to live in. This is you now living in the consequences of what you've decided to do, good or bad. I think for parents, though, like letting go is choosing to hold our tongues. Because I know there are times when I'm like, I hear you, but let me tell you.
Or we make little comments on the side that we probably shouldn't make.
Or talking to your other kids about decisions that like we want our kids to trust us and be a sounding board and be a space where they can come. Like, we need to learn to keep our mouths shut. As parents, letting go is learning to respect their boundaries and to honor their adulthood. To like, they make a decision you're not in favor of, we've got to let them have that. We've got to give them that space. We've got to honor the fact that they're trying to adult. I think part of that, maybe this is more a mom thing than a dad thing, but the meddling. Stopping the meddling.
As a mom, I want to know everything that's going on in their lives, but I have to be really careful about how much I push for information or details, especially with adult men.
But you're the queen of questions, and you do it well. I know to the group that I was speaking to last week, like that came up, like asking particular questions to get your kids talking. I'm like, Amy's the queen of questions, and she's really good at asking questions that get her kids talking. I think lastly, this idea of letting go is knowing the difference between controlling care. And I think that really goes back to, you know, why we call this letting go without giving up. Letting go is not controlling them, but it's still caring about them. It's not governing their decisions anymore, but it's being intentionally connected because we do still care for our kids. We want to see the best for them. And so letting go is knowing the difference. Are you trying to control your kids, or are you just simply expressing an idea of care or an emotion of care?
So 3 of our sons chose to move away, and not just to an apartment in a neighboring town or city. They chose to move to other states, far away. And we have 2 in Florida and 1 in New York. And we, at that time, lived in West Virginia, now Ohio. But the last thing a mom wants is to see her kids move away. That is the very last thing. And
I'll say for dads, we don't like the idea too. I think moms are a little more emotionally connected sometimes.
Definitely.
We can be too as well, but
well, and with the move comes the worries of, for me, like, how are they going to eat? How are they going to pay bills? What happens if they get sick or injured? What happens if they get into an accident? Will they find a church? Will they find community? Will they follow Jesus? All those questions. And questions like that could hold us back from letting our kids go. It's not wrong to have these questions. And even in the right situation, it's not wrong to ask those questions. But they can't be the questions that stifle their need for independence, because we really do need to let them go. And our kids are going to make decisions that we don't approve of, despite our advice and coaching, regardless of how hard we might have prayed for them, regardless of how much we instructed, regardless of how much Jesus we tried to get into them. They still may choose other things to chase. And so we release them, but we don't stop loving them.
And I think that's the picture that we see of the Father in Luke 15. the younger son asks for his portion of the inheritance. And what does the father do? He gives it.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have come at tremendous cost to the father.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time, it was doubtful that their inheritance was sitting in a bank somewhere where you could just withdraw and give them the cash.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been having to sell parts of the property, or maybe some of the flocks, or whatever that business was, or whatever the father was doing to gather his wealth. Like, he would have had to liquidate some of it so that he could give his son the portion that was his. And I know pastors have talked about this being like he's the younger son, and in the tradition, most of the inheritance would have gone to the firstborn son. The boldness, even for the younger son to ask for his portion of inheritance, like, that's a huge ask. And so what does the father do? The father gives it. He gives his portion to the son. And so what we see is this idea of the father letting go. And there's no doubt that it came with deep sorrow and hurt. I mean, yes, it's a story, but think about it from a perspective of a parent. The feelings that we would feel, no doubt this father would feel. And so he chooses to let go, but he doesn't stop caring. He doesn't hold his son back. In fact, jumping towards the middle part of the story, once the son decides to head back to his father, I love what we see in verse 20. So verse 20 says, "And he," that is the son, "rose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion and ran and embraced him and kissed him." You see, the father lets go, but he never stopped watching or waiting for his son to return. In fact, some of the things that we've heard about this story, like, you can imagine that this father, it wasn't like he was passing through town, happened to look up and out and said, "Oh my gosh, I think that's my son." The idea here is that he would go to the city limits on a daily basis and wait and watch for his son to return. So it's an intentional longing that the father has. And now in this moment in verse 20, as he's standing and watching and waiting, the father sees his son coming. And he doesn't wait for the son to come into the city, does he? He takes off after him. And one of our favorite pastors kind of paints this picture of this proper Hebrew man, would have been wearing long gowns and robes and stuff, hiking all of that up, exposing his legs so that he could run out after his son, which would have been a huge no-no in that culture. But imagine this spectacle of this older gentleman with, white hairy legs hanging out, running towards his son, but that's this picture that we see of the father. He feels the compassion. He runs towards him. He embraces him and he kisses him. And notice too, there's no indication that he was like, okay, go home and shower and put on some new clothes. He welcomes him in that minute as he is, where he is, with all the junk that's on him. Mm-hmm. He embraces him and he kisses him and he welcomes him back. And this is where I get the idea that as parents, we let go, but we don't stop watching and waiting. Mm-hmm. And so that brings us to this idea of, what does it look like for us to become the prodigal parent? I think to understand that, we need to look at what it means to be the prodigal. So in his book, Tim Keller kind of gives us a definition. Aim, when you think of prodigal, what's the first thing that pops in mind?
Wayward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's how most of us think about it, right? Mm-hmm. We think of the prodigal son as the son who leaves home and gets himself into a bunch of trouble. Spends all he has, carouses with the wrong people, finds himself in a pig pen. All that may be true, but let's look at what it means to be a prodigal. So if we look it up in the dictionary, Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary says it this way: prodigal means a recklessly spendthrift. The idea being to spend until you have nothing left. And in many ways, that is exactly what we see the younger son do. He goes out, he takes his wealth, and he spends it. But the son's wealth is limited. Once he spends it, it's gone. It's no more, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the father clearly has more to spend than the son. And a lot of those expenses come at his own personal cost. Specifically things like his own reputation, public perception, status. I think these are sometimes ouch words for us as parents because we worry about what other people are seeing, thinking, and saying about our kids. But as parents, how we raise our kids. Like all that becomes front and center. But the father gives not just out of his resources, that is the coat and the ring and the feast and his wealth, but he gives regardless of the perception, the public, the reputation, the public perception, or the status that he's risking in showing his son love. But he also gives out of his love a kiss, a hug, compassion, humility as he restores his son with grace, mercy, forgiveness. I mean, these are all attributes. This is what we see God doing for us when we come back to the Father, when he welcomes us back into his family. So as parents, this is how I think we're to respond to our kids as the prodigal parent with reckless, extravagant expenditures of love. And I think one of the best ways, one of the biggest ways that we can do this is through prayer.
Yeah, I do believe that a parent's most powerful ministry is prayer. When, we try to reach them with words, that doesn't always happen, but we can always pray for them, and we can always, ask God to reach them. And we know that God is faithful, and we know that he will reach them in his time for his glory because they're his kids. Yeah. And it's his story. We were going to share just a couple practical thoughts on practical prayer postures that we can use for and with our kids. And the first one is to be persistent. Don't stop praying, even when you don't see any change for year after year after year after year. Do not stop. God's time is not our time. So just pray, and pray some more.
What's Joby say? Oh, you just said
it.
Yeah.
Pray.
As I was trying to say it, you were already saying it. What's Joby say? Pray, and pray some more.
Yeah, just keep praying. And then, pray peacefully. And to do that, you've got to pray from a place of trust. I think when we think about being peaceful, I know for me, it's when I'm truly trusting God and not praying from a fearful heart, but from a trusting heart, is when you can pray peacefully. Yeah, you can fully trust that what you're praying, God has it. He has it in his way. Yeah. And it's hard for us to do, but when we do that, when we're fully trusting in him, we're knowing that he loves them more than we do, which I know is really hard to imagine at times as parents. And then you want to pray with purpose. You want to ask God for his will to happen, not just our wants and wishes. We want to pray with great expectation for his purposes to be made clear and happen. Yeah. It's not us.
I was at a conference and was convicted. We were talking about prayer. And this has actually shifted some of our thoughts for even student ministry for this year. But the comment was made, are your prayers big enough? Like we pray the simple, safe things.
I know.
Things that we think that God might do. But like the whole conversation at that conference was pray for the big stuff that only God can do. Yeah. Like the big things that you need him to do. Yeah. And I think sometimes when it comes to our kids, it's praying those big prayers that only God can answer, and we're trusting his will. But yeah, the whole idea of, and not just our wishes, but his stuff, like that's huge. And
God's timing is rarely ours. He is patient and his pursuit is perfect. Yeah. And so when I think of that in the lives of our kids and in other family members, you know, where we've seen God's faithful.
Yeah. Yeah. And that brings us to the third point as we come to this. It's trusting our good and faithful Father. You know, we've asked our kids permission to share some things, and before we ever share anything, we try to go back to the kid that the story is about to make sure it's safe to share. So that's when we have permission. But one of our kids was there. Like we thought he was in a particular place spiritually, and he just wasn't, and we missed it. But one of our kids, you know, growing up as a teenager, it was a rough season.
Right, but before that, I prayed with him. Like we prayed with him to accept Christ. So, you know, you as a parent, you're like, okay, great, they've done it, you know, and so you think that they have when they're little kids. Yeah. Go ahead. Finish.
And so you know, part of what you're dealing with the teenager, he's just a teenager. He's rebellious. Right. He's resisting authority. He's trying to do his own thing. Like all those things were kind of like not the excuses, but those were the things that we jumped to. Oh, he's just being a teenager. But it wasn't until more recently, a couple of years ago, that he made a trip. He was going to go out of state to meet somebody who he had met online on social media. Yeah. And he was going to be her date to a wedding. And we had all sorts of red flags on this. Like nothing that he said, we were like, that sounds great. Go for it. We were like, let's not do this. Right. But, you know, he was an adult. He was able, I mean, if he was living at school or doing his own thing,
he would have done it.
He probably would have done it, and maybe not even known.
Right.
We only knew because he was living at home because it was post-COVID. Right. But he goes and he does this. And at the end of the weekend, we were at one of the kids' schools for an event, and I get a phone call, and I have to excuse myself, and our son is on the other end sobbing, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he's been in a wreck. Right. He's been pulled over. He's being arrested. Like all the things that went through my head. All I know is my son is on the side of the road, bawling his eyes out, unable to speak because he is sobbing so heavily, and it was just like waiting until he calmed down enough. And when he did, it was like the floodgates of confession. Yeah. He just opened up. And that was the beginning for him to kind of have that return to Jesus moment. Yeah. And, you know, we had conversations afterwards and, you know, made major confessions. But the thing that we saw is here we are as youth pastors. Our career has been in the church, working with students, sharing the gospel, discipling students, taking more mission trips, doing all these things. And here's one of our own that it took him all of those years that we thought, oh, he's just being a teenager. He was walking in darkness. Yeah. And it was this trip.
And he'll say now, like, I didn't hear you.
He didn't hear.
I had no idea what you were talking about. Like Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's it. You know, we share that story because I think one of the biggest lessons that we are continuing to wrestle with and learn is that it's not about us.
And what I love about that story is that it was God's story. It is totally God's story, and his life is just a reflection of Christ, and he's teaching us things about how to live so unselfishly and so to lay down his life. And it was hard to walk through it. And now looking back, I'm like, because it was God's story and not ours. And while we would love to have protected him from, you know, other things or whatever, but that was not God's story. Like, And
it is coming to that place of humbling ourselves so much so that we say it's not about us. Yeah. It's not about our hopes and dreams. Yeah. It's not about the goals and the ones that we have for our kids. It's about the story that God is writing for our kids.
And trusting him.
And trusting that his story, whatever that outcome is, God has a purpose and a reason for it. And we might not understand it, but here's what we can we can rest in this. God is a good and faithful Father who loves his children and knows what's best for them better than we know it. We've already kind of said it, but it's not our story. But I mean, think back to our own story. I mean, as we were finding that independence, as we were beginning to leave home, as we were making decisions, you know, that maybe our parents weren't in favor of, you know, we survived. We're here, like
and even still today, sometimes we make
absolutely,
you know, like, but God is good and faithful.
We have to remember that it's God's story and that He's the one that's writing it. And it's not ours, and it's not what we want to see or to see them live. The stories, it might be long. You may think your kids are in one space. It might be
years. It might be years. It might be decades. Like, yeah.
But it's God who writes the endings. And we really struggled with this because I know as parents, we want the happy ending. We want to see our kids come to know Jesus. We want to see our kids have fruitful lives. We want to see the blessings that God has for them. But I don't think all endings are necessarily good endings. And I'm not going to get into that because I think that's unique for everybody. I think what we have to trust and rely on is that it's God who writes the endings, and He's in control of that. And it might take us to be with Him to fully understand. Like there's always a bigger picture that we don't always see. And so while we don't have answers, sometimes it just leans into the trust. So what are some practical take-home ideas for us if we want to become this prodigal parent who is extravagantly pouring out love and compassion and grace and forgiveness for our kids? What does that look like?
Oh, I think some things is that we need to make the commitment to pray, like we said, and be persistent, peaceful, and purposeful in that prayer. And, you know, if it helps you, keep a prayer journal. I know for me, I cannot sit there and pray silently. I have to either pray out loud or keep a prayer journal because my mind will wander to every list in my head of other things. And so do whatever it takes to make you be focused. And that's the purposeful.
I want to add one thing to the prayer journal. So we've got 5 kids. I don't do this all the time, but I've done this in seasons where it just works out. 5 kids, 5 days of the week. Like in my journaling, like I've prayed for 1 kid per day. And again, I don't do it every day. I go through seasons and spurts where it's like Monday I'm praying for our number 1. Tuesday I'm praying for number 2. Like I just walk through the 5 days.
It's cool. And that, you know, remember our prayers are never wasted. God hears us and He always responds in His way. And we can trust Him. He's a good and faithful Father, and He understands a parent's love. And we can rest in that. We can rest in His love for us and for our kids. And I think the most important thing to do is to keep showing up. Even when you don't agree with their decisions, even when you don't like what they're doing, you need to stand in the gap, keep loving them, and keep being open. And I know that's a lot easier said than done. But I think that's part of being the prodigal parent is that
you're standing at the city gate.
We're standing at the city gate and we're waiting and we're recklessly, you know, we're a reckless spendthrift. Like we're going to do whatever it takes. And that doesn't mean enabling them. But that is showing up, you know, standing in the gap and being there.
And I think as we move to, you know, part of being a parent is you never stop being a parent. So don't stop learning. Don't stop striving to be a parent. Like our kids are our kids until we leave this space. You know, that's the only time they don't have a parent is when we move on. So I think for us as parents, we need to continue to learn, to be striving to be a parent. And so read books. I mean, there's so many good books. So we talked about
link them.
We talked about The Prodigal God from Timothy Keller. We'll put a link for that in the show notes and on our website. If the Tomb is Empty and Anything is Possible by Joby Martin and Charles Martin. Two of our favorite books. They're not necessarily parenting books, but in the books there are stories of parents who have prayed for their kids and you know, good stories and bad stories. But there are two books that help your faith grow. The Power of a Praying Parent. If you're familiar with that series, they're way old now, but you can still get them. And I think they're still helpful. Stormy O'Martian, Doing Life with Your Adult Children, Keeping Your Mouth Shut, and The Welcome Out by Jim Burns is probably our next favorite book to recommend. We'll have the links below in the description. We'll have it on our website. If you are in the space of raising adult kids, or if you're about to step into that world, you need to read this book, Doing Life with Your Adult. It's theoretical, spiritual, but highly practical. I mean, really good things in there for you to do. Anxious Generation from Jonathan Haidt. Definitely you want to read this. It's not just if you're raising younger kids. I think if you're in that world of maybe grandparents, or like, you need to read this book. Super, super helpful. And then a book that Amy read and we kind of recommend it was It's Not Supposed to Be This Way. Lisa TerKeurst. Do you want to talk about that one real quick, since you've read that one? I haven't read that one.
I just think it's a really good resource for, you know, we have this picture of like what life should be because we did this and we did that and it should look this way, and it just doesn't always. And I just found it really hopeful and encouraging, and I think she's honest, and
she's
it just spoke to me right now. During a really hard season. So
God has done a tremendous thing in her life. Podcasts, a couple podcasts that we enjoy: the Family Discipleship Podcast, the Knowing Faith Podcast, the Deepen Podcast with Joby Martin, and of course, Gathered in the Higham House is a podcast that we hope you'll continue listening to. But also take note of like conferences and workshops. Sometimes churches are hosting things, and if it's a parent-related thing, like, go to it. You never know how helpful something's going to be. So I would say keep looking for those things, but continue to learn, continue to grow. Don't think that just because your kids have moved on that the opportunity to parent is over. And
I think it's important to note, like, while these books have helped us, they may or may not help you, and that's fine. But we just wanted to put it out there, and there's, again, no secret secret formula on how to do this, but these are things that we've just been encouraged by. And I think the thing to remember is that you're not alone, that many Christian parents carry that same quiet ache about wanting their kids to come home and to be faithful to the Lord. And so I would just say, look for parents in similar life stages, whether in your church or your community, and for parents who have already walked through that season of life. Like, cling to them, pray with them, form a small circle of mothers or parents who will intercede together, and set up a time to get together and encourage one another. And to lean into resources that your churches have, and the seasoned voices at your church. Like, there are people that who have, just lean into them.
They've raised their kids.
And they've probably walked through different seasons, and that's just a good source of encouragement to be with them. So,
so hopefully, I mean, something that we've shared is going to be helpful. But, again, we're in this season. We are walking through this, and we've got lots of time before we're going to be out of it. Having given Brea still at the house, like her stepping into that season of life, we're going to help her transition that way. But our hope is to continue to learn and just simply share our story and the things that God is teaching and showing us. And so hopefully something today has been helpful. But we want to thank you for taking the time to listen. We would love your questions, whether it's on this topic. If you're in that season right now and you want, a specific question answered, like, I feel like lately that's what we've been doing, having the opportunity to speak just recently. Like, parents have questions and they're looking for direction and advice and hope. And so if that's you and you have questions, Send them. We're actually going to take some of the questions that I had from that Mother's thing, and we're going to turn them into to blog posts that will show up in the blog post.
You're like Mother's thing.
Mother's thing. I know. Well, I don't know what to call it. I'm trying to be careful with what I'm calling it. But we're going to take some of the questions that were asked and turn them into blog posts as another resource. As always, visit the website, lifeinthehigham.com. Be checking us out on our social medias, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. You never know what we're going to post or share there. Other times it's just our own family stuff, but we do that to encourage you. Lastly, if you're enjoying the podcast so far, we would love if you would take the time to go and share it with someone that you think might benefit from it, or someone who it may help. We would appreciate you leaving a 5-star rating. And give us a review. Leave a comment below. Just even if it's just a quick, hey, liked it, hated it, whatever. Just leave a comment. Just put something there. We'd love to see it. Again, all of that helps to circulate the podcast, give more people a chance to listen to it, and we would love the opportunity to continue to share our story with those who are interested in listening to it. So that's going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for being here with us. And we'll see you in episode 7, coming very soon. Until then, we'll see you later. Thanks for joining us today in the Higham House. If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and join us again as we gather for more stories, laughter, and family life. Until then, may your home be filled with grace, joy, love, and Jesus.